Mhm.
Um, so I got the idea for this as I've been getting inundated with text saying, "Oh, how are you?" or "Are we going to still meet for lunch tomorrow?" or from random numbers and things like that. And I thought, you know what? It's amazing how much this kind of stuff is happening. And there are a number of simple techniques and things to be aware of that can help you be resistant to scams.
Okay.
And there are a lot of good, dependable resources for information. So we thought it would be a good idea to do a program like this to help make us more resilient to the increasing number. And also with AI starting to allow
Hmm.
forging of people's voices and images and things like that is just amazing what they're starting to be able to do. Knowledge on our part can help us be more resistant. So that was what the thought was. And I reached out to the sheriff's department, and they were very gracious. And we have Detective Samuel Faggart on the call, and he's going to do the program today. And he'll be we wanted to be in person so that you'd have an opportunity to meet with him and talk with him after. So next week he'll come also, and we'll have a chance to individually talk. So, what are we going to cover? There's a got three classes. The the first class today is kind of an introduction, and then we're going to do an overview of scam awareness. Next week, we'll pick up on some additional scam types and red flags. Try to come up with some things that we can think of to be aware when somebody's trying to pull one over on us. And talk about techniques you can do to protect yourself. And we'll also go through some trusted resources. And then the last class, what I'd like to do is if you bring your device, your phone or your laptop, and we'll talk about security settings. We'll talk about setting up two-factor authentication, um, and other things that you can do to make your electronic tech more resilient. So you can we can set it up for Zoom so people could remotely watch, but um, in that instance, it's probably better to come in so that I can help you if you're having trouble with some of those things, and it'll be kind of more personal to your particular situation. So, the one thing I'd like to do as we get started, because we each have a story to tell, we're each doing this for a particular reason, and if I could ask you each to do just 1 minute quick overview of why you're taking the class, and I will tell you, in my case, it was about 2 years ago. I had a phone call, and it was ostensibly my nephew, who I talked to from time to time, but not that frequently. And it actually sounded like my nephew. And he said, he's in the Air Force and he was on an assignment in Florida, and which was very plausible because what he did for the Air Force, he did travel. But he said, I got in an accident. I need $3,000. I don't want to call mom and dad. Can you help me out, Uncle Doug? And he really did sound right. And he had enough information that he knew about our relationship and about him that it made sense. Um, but by the same token, I'm thinking, there's a piece of this doesn't sound right. So I quickly thought, is there a way I can test him to make sure this is real? Because previously to this, my dad had gotten scammed by another, well, in this case, it was a grandson. Um, and it wasn't the grandson, and he actually did send money, and that money was gone. So I asked him, I happened to realize that he had moved around a number of times. So I asked him, well, what street did you live on when you were 5 years old? And I knew the answer to that. This guy didn't. He hung up. But, we all have stories like that. And just kind of curious to know what concerns or things that you might have. And maybe Betty, if you have kind of what brought your interest into the class? Oh, I can't hear you. No. Tell you what, why don't we, Brenda?
Yes.
Uh, Yeah, what brought your interest into the class?
Well, I think certainly I've been reading lots about scams, but the one that got my personal attention was when a Microsoft on my computer told me I needed help and it was gonna not to push this because it would shut down. And I had never heard at that point that this happened about a year ago. That that would happen. And of course, they invaded, if I pushed the button, they invaded my computer. And I thought I was smarter than that. But I pushed the button. And so I had to get a computer person here quickly, and they eliminated it from my computer. But, it's helpful to hear what people are doing in the scamming arena because they do have repetition. And of course, after that happened to me, I read about Microsoft that happening, but I didn't know at the time. So that's one reason I'm here.
Good example. Perfect. Um, Teresa?
Reasons. Actually, my mother, who is 98 now, but she was like 90 when this happened. The phone rang and they said it was her grandson Thomas. And she was smart enough to ask him questions like you did about where he lived and where he was and things like that. And she said, "Goodbye," click. And she ended the phone call. But for us, back in February, our grandson was born, and I had put money in the checking account to cover bills, more money than should be. And we went on our trip, and everything was fine. And then the next month, I usually go to the bank because my husband gets pension. And I always check it out 2 days into the month. And I checked it and they told me how much was in the account. And I said, "Oh, no, no, that's wrong." And I'm looking at it, and sure enough, it wasn't there. And we went to our financial, it was funny because we were going to our financial counselor that afternoon. And I showed him the paperwork and I said, "Something is definitely wrong here." Well, somebody scammed us out of 2 months worth of pension. And I didn't get it the first time because I had put so much money in the checking account that I covered everything plus. And so we are now fighting to get his money back. And this was from DFAS. It went from the DFAS account straight to a bank in Utah. And we've had to go to the congressman for this because um, DFAS's attitude is, "Well, you lost it and it's all your fault."
Hmm, sorry to hear that. Mary? Oh,
Yep. Well, I'm just so aware about how all pervasive the scams are, and on occasion I see something and I'll almost click on it and I'll go, wait a minute, and so I just want to, I just more information is
Yeah,
better.
yep,
definitely.
no, for sure. And I have to admit, the other day I got an email from a guy I work with. At least I thought it was an email from him. And I generally don't click on links in emails, but I did click on it. Fortunately, I have a thing on my software that catches it and said, no, that's not a legitimate. So we all succumb to these kinds of things from time to time. So awareness is really powerful. Uh, Karen?
Yep, sorry, I got kicked out.
No, sorry. Did you have something you want to share in terms of what you're, oh, now you're muted.
Sorry, I'm calling in on my phone. So I just got kicked out for a second. And so one of the reasons I signed up for this was in different jobs that I've had, there's always been required training on this subject, which has always been super helpful for me, both professionally and personally. And so I've signed up today just to kind of get a refresher and look at what's in my power to control to prevent things from happening.
Good. Perfect. Carol? Anything in particular? I'm gonna ask you to unmute here.
There.
There you go.
Okay. I have been scammed. About 2 years ago, on my phone, there was a thing from, I thought, the Maryland Department of Motor Vehicles updating my information. It looked very real, the Maryland flag, the whole bit. I gave all the information they asked for, and at the end, it went over to another screen, and I could tell right then I had been scammed.
Mhm.
I was really sort of petrified because I just didn't know what to do. I went to my bank and I ended up putting a freeze on the 3 major credit reporting places. And I still have that freeze on there. It's been 3 or 4 years now. I tried to unfreeze my accounts because I needed a credit reference. And it's very hard to unfreeze your credit once you do that, which I found. But I don't want to be scammed again, and that's why I'm interested in this course.
Okay, good. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about that because and I'm surprised it was difficult because I was buying a car because I keep mine frozen, and I was able to get it unfrozen within an hour.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I had trouble. I was at a bank, and the bank people were trying to help me do it. And we got some guy that just kept trying to give us a free gift or something. He wouldn't put us with the right people that we needed to talk to.
Okay.
And so I tried the second company, and I didn't get anywhere. And then I ran out of town ran out of time at the bank because the person helping me had another appointment. So I just gave up. But
Hmm. Thomas, did you have anything? Oh, you're muted. You're uh, you're muted. Okay. Maybe how about Sharon?
Um, my father-in-law, he was scammed. I think one of the previous other participants had the same thing. Grandson actually calling saying he had had an accident and they wanted him to send money orders from East End Liquors, that the closest place was East End Liquors. I mean, told him where to go and, you know, um, so he ended up doing all that and he lost all of his money
Hmm.
because he thought he sounded like his grandson, and that he thought he was calling him because he didn't want to call his parents, but he didn't ask a lot of questions. But yeah. And he also had somehow he had a check stolen and they wrote out the check and put it in a bank in Pennsylvania, and the bank was able to track that and recover that. So they covered his money, but we didn't find out who stole it or how they stole it or anything like that.
Okay.
So
Good. Brenda, did you have any?
Pretty much the same story. That, I know somebody who lost thousands of dollars because of the same exact story. And she went to the local pharmacy for her money orders. And even the pharmacist said, Mrs. So-and-so, this is a scam. But she refused to believe it. And, she lost lots and lots of money.
Hmm.
So I just want to get updated.
Sure. No, that's good. Thomas, looks like you're unmuted now.
Yeah, I've had one of my credit cards scammed 3 times. Luckily, my bank has caught every one of them. In fact, I have one in the mail now coming back to me. Uh, but I get many, many phone calls. Some are scams, some are just bothersome calls. I also get emails that will ask you for information. I've yet to click on one of those. I want to be very careful.
Yep.
So I just want to get more information. Obviously, I can't figure out how that same credit card is 3 times
Yeah.
has been used, and they change the number each time. So interesting enough, it's the same one.
And Robert.
Yeah, I don't have any bad stories to tell, but which is good. But I've gone down some rabbit holes for a little bit of time. But my former employer used to send these emails, and then that training was kind of useful, so that they would send it. If you clicked on it, they say, "We got you," and you have to take this course, But I think that was helpful. But I'm sure that they keep changing, the tactics and the stories.
Right.
I would think that goes on for time, forever. But I've had credit cards that I've had to change, but fortunately nothing. And I've had bank accounts where it was unbelievable that it was, to me, it was the bank's fault, that they came in with a fake ID and of my daughter, who's also on the account, and lo and behold, they just gave her money, and it wasn't my daughter. They have it all on film. They never caught her or anything. And it was just surprising how lackadaisical they were. Because, the banks are supposed to have a picture. They have copies of your IDs and everything when you go to there. But
Right.
and they're supposed to look. But when there's people involved, they can be they don't always take every step that needs to be done.
For sure. And Betty? Oh, still can't hear you. Sorry. But if you have questions or things during the program, you can text them. I'll kind of monitor that and ask them. Claudia, did you have anything in particular?
Well, one day I opened my PC and it had been captured. There was a message that said, pay such and such amount of money, and then you can get back to your files.
Oh.
And I tried different things. At the end, I decided to remove the hard drive and throw away the computer. But what worries me is that computer was sort of a standalone. But today, my various devices, the phone, iPad, computer, they all communicate. And so I'm worried that, if something happened again on my PC, that could immediately spill over to the other devices.
Right. That's interesting. I'll have to do some investigation on that because I have a similar situation.
Well, unfortunately, I can't show you my PC anymore because we have a recycling next week. So I decided to unscrew the whole thing, take out the hard drive, and done.
Yeah, no, I think that was
But
smart.
it was scary because,
Yeah.
it was using quite threatening language. And it was obvious that whoever wrote this was not
Right.
his English or her English skills were definitely limited. So, but it didn't help me because I just couldn't do anything.
Right. And Lynn, did you want to?
Yes. Like everyone in this group, I think I want to. I don't want to be shamed by tapping on the wrong thing anymore, because it just happens. It's amazing the emails we get. I've gotten to the point now where if it's an email that I am not familiar with, I just go, well, if it's important, they'll reach out again.
Right.
But I think more importantly, I'm very interested in hearing
more about what can we do when something like this happens. And I think we all have some stories of, Claudia, uh, she went MacGyver on us and took apart her computer and threw it away. But there are other solutions. I have what really got me interested in this was I have a neighbor who really got completely scammed, but it was not by an electronic scamming operation. It was by a household worker. And there, in that case, they just were using very poor security, and letting this gal use the credit card to go shopping, grocery shopping for them and stuff like that. And it was and she and they had ended up paying for 6 Apple MacBooks and all this kind of stuff, and they never were able. The police were involved, but they were never able to recover anything. So I just I just want to not be a dummy.
Right. No, no, perfect sense. And that's the thing. I think we all should be comfortable if we run into a problem talking to others, because that's one of the ways that scammers prey on us because we feel embarrassed. And that's why, I expressed a couple of examples that have happened to me, and the most recent one where I normally don't click on a link in an email, but this was from somebody I knew. It was about something that we were talking about, and it turned out not to be from him. And so it does happen to all of us. So with this, I'm going to turn it over to Detective Faggart, and he's going to take us through and show you some really good examples and some things that are happening right here in Talbot County. And I have to say, what a wonderful resource the Sheriff's Department has been. I've been over there several times, and great group of people, really wonderful, very helpful. And so I appreciate you taking the time to speak with us.
No problem. Thanks for the introduction, Doug. I heard some awesome stuff in your intros here. A lot of the stuff we're getting into today. Looking forward to that. See if I can start sharing with you guys.
Thomas, is that as loud as it goes?
Do you need me a little louder?
No, I think you're okay.
Okay, cool. All right. So, like Doug said, my name's Detective Faggart. I work here with the Sheriff's Office. And our objectives for today, we're going to go over some understanding what a scam is, what they're out to get from us, learn some scam-specific terminology and definitions. I'm going to try to make that as interesting as possible. And then we're going to go over some tips and tricks for recognizing scams, some of the current scam trends we're seeing here in Talbot County, cases we're actually handling, some tips and tricks to prevent being scammed, some ways to keep informed, and then we'll have some open questions and answers at the end. The big ones here for us today, though, are the tips and tricks to prevent being scammed, and then the tips and tricks for recognizing scams. Because if we can harden ourselves as targets to be targeted in the first place, and then also gain some tips and tricks for recognizing the scams to make ourselves less likely to fall for those scams, that's what we're going to be focused on. So starting off, what is a scam? The Merriam-Webster says it's to obtain something such as money by a scam. Not the best definition in the world, but what it really means is, what are they after? They're after our money, generally, or our information, your personal identifying information. So some of the ways that they can be after your money, some of you guys mentioned these in your introductions about sending checks. They'll be after your credit, debit card information, your banking information, get you to wire money. I know somebody mentioned that. Big one we're seeing is the purchasing the gift cards or the prepaid Visa cards, whether it's over at Kroger's, Food Line, anything like that. And then there's also apps right on your phone, Cash App, Zelle, Venmo, PayPal. There's many, many apps on your phone that can be used to transfer money, some of them right in your banking apps. And then we're also seeing a rise lately in actually being in Talbot County and actually then being used in frauds are these Bitcoin ATMs. And I got a picture of one down there in the bottom right where you're able to buy Bitcoin, which is a virtual currency right there on the machine. So take your real currency, turn it into virtual currency, and then the suspects get you to send them that money. And then some of you also mentioned this as well. They weren't necessarily after your money. They were after your personal identifying information. your name, your date of birth, social security number, taxpayer information, driver's license, photos, information off there. They're also after your social media accounts. Well, they will take over your account and then use your account to scam your friends and family that are a part of your account. You see that big, people get their Facebooks hacked or Twitter hacked and then send out messages asking for money, but it's not actually you or, the victim person, it's the suspect using your account. So some of the terminology we have when we're dealing with scams, I like the names of them, but it's just scam specific terminology. So you have the first one is phishing, pronounced just like your reel and rod phishing. That's when they're using an email to try to scam you. Smishing is when they're trying to use text messages. Vishing is telephone calls or voicemails. And then some people also mentioned the pop-up alerts you get, whether it be Microsoft or another one. And then we're also going to talk about some skimmers. So first off, we have our skimming technology here. This is straight from the FBI. It's a great resource. You can see this slide in specific was talking about things to look out for when you're going to the ATM. So you can see on the little number 1 above the screen cover, it says hidden camera. There can be cameras placed, usually on the ATM there will be a security camera, but there can be other cameras placed to try to see your fingers as you punch in your PIN code on the keypad. And that would be used in conjunction with number 2. Not the best picture for that. I got some better pictures coming up in these slides, but there's the actual skimmer, which is a piece of equipment when you put your card into the ATM machine. It allows that skimmer to steal the information off the card as well. So you would still be using the ATM machine and not know that you've put your card through the skimmer and they're stealing your information. And another one is a keypad overlay. So it's literally, I got a real good picture of this coming up. It's literally a device they put over the keypad that captures the keypad strokes you enter to put in your PIN pad. So this picture is a better picture of the skimmer. So if you went up to this ATM machine, it would look identical, to how you would usually use it. You would just see that green cover, but what it is, inside of that green cover is a little card reader. So when you put your credit card or your debit card into that ATM machine, the ATM machine's still going to read it and give you your cash out or whatever you're there for, but that information is also going to be stolen and stored on that skimmer. And we'll get into in some of the gas station skimmers here, things we can do to try to avoid putting our credit card through skimmers. And this is a great picture of a keypad overlay. I mean, how impossible would that be to find? You can see there's this device here that is placed over top of the actual keyboard for the ATM. And so when you would be punching on those keys, you'd be able to punch through to the actual keys underneath. So the ATM would look like it's working just fine for you pulling out cash. But in reality, that keypad also stored your PIN when you put in your credit card. So the bad guy would come back and retrieve that keypad later, and then they would have that information stored to be able to use to try to gain access to your bank account. And this is another kind of skimmer. You'll see these more at a gas station, convenience store type thing. You go in to pay for your coffee in the morning at 7-Eleven or wherever you go. There'll be this plastic overlay that will go over top of the entire credit card machine there. And then the same thing at the gas pumps here. This is just a generic picture of a gas pump. We can see over on the left-hand side by where it says diesel, there's our security strip. And then we can also see down center, we have our credit card scanner where you would put in your credit card to get your gas. But what's interesting, or what we were talking about to catch the skimmers, is we want to be checking the security seal to make sure it's not tampered with. And I got some more photos of that. You want to be looking for any hidden cameras. You shouldn't have a hidden camera on your gas pump. You might have one on the ATM, but there shouldn't be any camera filming you at a gas pump. And then the other thing is wiggle the credit card reader to see if it's loose. So we talked about, and I'll have another slide on that in a sec, but I just want to show you back on this slide. If you were to go up to use this ATM, you just grab a hold of that green piece and give it a little wiggle to see if it pops off or if it's loose. Maybe not an ATM you want to use, go inside and talk to the clerk, right? Don't go to your local ATM or gas machine and yank on it till the whole thing flies off the wall. Detective Fagger did not tell you to do that, but you give it a little wiggle, to see if it's loose or it's going to pop off for you. But you don't need to be yanking on it with all your might, okay? And then the other thing is confirm the buttons don't stick. So that's trying to find that keypad overlay I showed you. If it looks like there's a keypad on top of a keypad, obviously a situation to avoid. And here's another photo, kind of a side photo of a skimmer on a gas pump credit card reader. So you can see on the right-hand side would be a regular one where you would slide your card into that machine and pull it out. But on the left-hand side, you can see the addition of that little plastic piece. And that would have all the electronics in there necessary to steal your credit card information as you put it in and out. So if you saw something like that, you could try to give it a little wiggle. If you were super suspicious, it didn't pop off, you gave it a wiggle, then I would just go try another pump or another station. You know, maybe mention it inside or notify your police if it popped off in your hand or something like that so we could come out and check it out. You can see here I was talking about the security seal. Top left is that untampered seal you want to see. I look at these all the time when I go fill up. You want to see that seal not peeled. Like over in the right image, you can see on the right-hand side of the sticker is complete. You can read it. And on the left-hand side of that sticker in the top right, you can see that it's half white and half red. That's where somebody peeled the sticker up and has placed the sticker back down, trying to pat it down to where it was. That's going to let you know that somebody's been in there, and so that sticker security is void now. Similarly, in the bottom, a lot easier to tell is going to be just the seal's cut. You can see there's a clear cut line down the middle that seal's broken. If you guys see that you're out at the gas pump, I'd go on to the next pump because you don't know whether that pump's secure or not secure at that point. The security seal's broken. So now we're getting into recognizing a scam. We have quite a few scam types to go over. There's almost an infinite number of scams. I know somebody said in the pre-work they wanted, or a couple of you said you wanted to be updated on the type of scams. There's almost an infinite number of scam types, right? We couldn't sit here and talk about every scam. We'd be here for weeks or months just trying to go over it all. But I'm going to try to update you guys specifically here in Talbot on what we're seeing locally and then some of the trends we're seeing. As far as recognizing a scam goes, I know some people talked about this. If you get a telephone number or an email that is somebody who's not known to you, you're not expecting that, you don't answer the phone call, right? You don't open the email. There's no reason. If you don't know who that person is, they'll find a way to reach out to you if they truly need you. That goes unexpected contacts from bank companies or people you do not know business with. So I know one I got was a bank that I don't even bank at, emailing me that my bank account had been hacked or frauded or whatever the situation was. I don't even bank there, right? So not something you want to be clicking on. Also, you see the unknown caller or no caller IDs calling in. That should be sending up some red flags that is somebody you do not want to speak with. They're not even willing to tell you who they are, reaching out to you, right? Not somebody whose call we should be answering. A couple of people also mentioned some poor English and emails or alerts they got. You're going to be looking for those spelling, punctuation, grammar errors, things that are going to give away that this may not be somebody who's actually here in this country trying to help you. It's actually a scammer trying to hurt you. The repeated and harassing telephone calls. We see it a lot in these scams that it won't just be that there was one cold call, everything happened on one call. We'll see multiple calls coming from different numbers even, and we'll also see multiple calls over a several-day period where they're layering the scam with different actors, as we'll get into with the calls. And then the big thing is payment. Anybody who's seeking payment should send up red flags immediately. Nobody should be seeking money from you over the phone or email or any other way. Some of the other things, I know several people mentioned this one, the pressure. Claudia, I know talked about this. The pressure into making quick and immediate decisions. They'll be curt with you. They'll be abrupt, almost threatening. Sometimes they are threatening with the warrants. I know some of you people mentioned that scam. So anybody who's pressuring you into that immediate, that quick decision, they're trying to make you to make a decision under duress. They're trying to get that money right now. So if you're being pressured like that, cut them off, go seek police or family member, get somebody to review it, make sure, you're seeing what you're seeing, reach out, and don't cave in to that pressure. Just because they're pressuring you doesn't make it real. They're trying to pressure you because they have you on the hook. They want to reel you in. They don't want you to let you pop off the hook. Again, the same thing as the last slide. The big thing is money. Anybody's asking you to wire money, put money on a card, use the Bitcoin. the checks, the money transfers, reloadable cards, green dot cards, any of these apps, anybody who's seeking the money, if they're calling you or emailing you seeking you for the money, that should be raising those red flags immediately.
You know, I want to just tell a scam that happened to me. Our parish priest, our pastor,
I like this one. This was a good
we
one.
got an email from him asking for some gift cards for one of the other unfortunate parishioners. Now, I mean, that's someone you really trust, right? And he's asking for a real reasonable reason, and even gift cards make sense. And he had to end up sending out an email to all of us in the parish saying he would never ask for a gift card like this. And it was fake. And he has to repeat this about once a year. This happens. So, you know, even people that you deeply trust, it can happen.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I have this one in the slide deck or not, but that's kind of getting to called the boss or the coworker scam.
Mhm.
So generally you'll see an email from generally in a corporate setting, you'd see an email from the boss who's I'm out of the office. I'm making a deal right now. I need $5,000 wired from the company fund to this account right now so I can close this deal. It's urgent. It needs to happen right now. So you looking at it, that's your boss telling you to do something that it's urgent. People will run, get that money sent to that account, that random account, and then the money's gone. The hacker or the scammer has it and it's gone. But the reality was if you stopped, call your boss on a number you know or an email that you actually know, they'll be like, no, I'm right here in the office, or no, I'm not meeting with a client. And just that simple call, that verification could avoid that scenario. We'll get into this one a little more in a second, talking about pretending to be a government agency or an unsolicited call. The big thing they wanted me to harp on was law enforcement agencies will not call to solicit money in any form for any reason, which is going to get into our top scam that we're going to discuss later when we're talking about the types of scams we're seeing recently here in Talbot County. I know some people, Ms. Carroll specifically talked about the MBA scam. This is kind of a branch off the same scam. This one just happens to say IRS versus that one would have said MBA. But it says, after the last annual calculations of your financial activity, we've determined that you're eligible for a tax refund. So they want you to click on the link, right? So they're essentially offering you money to click on the link. But what is that link actually going to do? It could be downloading malware or viruses onto your computer where they could take your computer hostage. Like I know somebody else talked about having to take the hard drive out of their computer. That's what they're looking for. They're kind of doing the reverse of, instead of asking for money, they're offering you money, and then they're going to bring you in through that way. They're going to catch you with that. Some of these other good resources we found here, things to look for on these scam emails. We want to be looking at the actual email it comes from. Because typically on an email, you're going to see a display name, right? So if I sent you an email, it would say Samuel Faggard up at the top, right? But when you click on the actual, my little highlighted link, it's going to show you my actual email address. So it's going to say sfaggard@talbotcountymd.gov, my work email, right? If you click on that and it's got something like this, you can see up at the top, it says at business-rct.uk, right? It's not something we're all familiar with. You might have heard of Gmails, Hotmails, Yahoo, AOL, things like that, or a government email address like ours and in that .gov. But you'll see oftentimes that after the at will be something really strange. And then also you'll see in the person's name part, there'll be something misspelled or it's a letter off. That's something you want to look at. Also, right below that, you can see that this particular email was sent Monday, August 28th at 9:53 p.m. Oftentimes, you can see these emails sent 2, 3 a.m. in the morning, right? That's something you want to pay attention to as well. Is your boss going to be emailing you at 3 a.m. in the morning? Something you're going to want to look at, right? Because what the reality is, the scammer is in another country, so he's emailing at his average workday, right? But that's coming back over to you here in America at a time in the middle of the morning. So even just something as the time being suspicious, why is HR emailing you at 2 in the morning? Not something that's going to happen, right? Because they're not at work either. The other thing is attachments. You'll see attachments added in emails. Attachments can bring all kind of woes with them. They can bring viruses, they can capture your information, they can download key trackers onto your computer. We want to avoid opening any attachments from people we don't recognize, because if you open one, it could be the last attachment you open on your computer. It could brick it, it could lock it down, it could hold it ransom. I know, again, there was the talk of the ransomware not being able to access your files without paying money. Just one attachment could end it all for your computer. Also, you'll see right below the attachment in this example email, it says urgent notice in all caps with the exclamation point, right? We talked about that pressure. They want that decision right now. And then down the line, you can see some of the incorrect spelling. We got a capital G in gift. And then we also have the poor grammar. And then an invalid signature. A company's not going to end their email with regards, Apple. You would obviously expect to see a full signature line with links, trying to get you to buy more of their products, whatever company it was. Similarly, we have this one. I think the next two, are going to be actually school websites giving this information along. We look up top, there's that fake domain we were talking about, how it looks like it's from at Office 365, but it's got that additional verbiage after it, the protectionservices.co.uk, something you wouldn't normally expect to see. You can see down where it says the threat. They're putting that pressure on you again. If you don't do this right now, your services are going to be turned off. But right in with that threat are more spelling errors, spelling mistakes. Same throughout the entire email. We see that there's spacing errors, commas in the wrong place, certain things not capitalized, and then another fake email signature. I think that one's a little harder to detect. And the last one just said, regards Apple down here in the bottom left, but this one actually has sort of a filled out with an address, and it has some sort of a fake legalese at the bottom. That one might be a little harder to detect. We'll kind of skip over this one from Amazon, similar example. So we got the common things. We're going to talk about spoofing here for a good minute. This is something we're seeing a lot of right now. So spoofing phone numbers to make it look like they are calling from a legitimate law enforcement agency, which is going to get into, I talked earlier, we're seeing a lot of what we're calling the sheriff's office scam. So what is the telephone spoofing, right? If only it was as easy as this image we have on the screen, scammer calling, right? If it was that easy, my job would be a lot easier, a lot less fraud reports coming in. But unfortunately for us, it's not. So the spoofing, it allows somebody to call into you and essentially change their phone number. So what it allows a scammer to do is when they call into you, they can change their phone number from being whatever their actual phone number is to a different phone number. So if the scammer was calling one of you, it could look like the phone number was coming from 410-822-1020. That's the sheriff's office phone number. So on your phone, you would see what you might know to be the sheriff's office phone number calling you. So you would pick that phone up, and then the scammer's got you on the hook, right? But in reality, that scammer's calling from another phone number. They're using this spoofing technology to scam you into thinking that it's somebody you might legitimately know calling. So some of the things that might help us with this, I know this is specific for iPhone here. You can see on the left, it says potential spam. Apple has some new software technology in where they are trying to make it a little easier for the phone owner on their end to identify scams that are coming in. If you see a call that says potential spam, I would definitely ignore that call, okay? They're trying to help you out, and I would take their help on that one. And you can see in that photo, there's a good example of the repeated harassing phone calls. You can see this person's recent call history is all potential spam missed calls, and you can see the locations from all different places. Similarly, this isn't exactly spoofing because spoofing, like I said, is going to change your phone numbers. But if you're getting a call in from an unknown caller or no caller ID, I would go ahead and avoid that as well. If they need you, they can leave a voicemail and you could follow up on a phone number you don't know. So if it's your bank, or say you get a voicemail or a call from an unknown caller, you don't answer, they leave a voicemail saying it's your bank, please call us back, you're a victim of a fraud at this number. I wouldn't call the number they provide you. You need to call the number that you're familiar with that bank with or go in person. So this is what I was talking about, this law enforcement. You can change that little title, that little contact up at the top. So that could say sort of whatever you want it to say to that person on the other end. So it could look legitimately coming into you with a phone number you might recognize for that agency, but it could be anybody on the other end. So an example here, you might see this in on your call inbound screen, a phone number like this. They could change that phone number to be from any area code or any number that they want to. So when we're answering calls, we need to be sort of careful, sort of almost skeptical of who's on the other line. We can't take at face value somebody calls, says, "Hi, I'm this person," and then you're hooked, giving away your personal information. You need to remain skeptical and don't give out that personal information over the phone. So we're going to get into some of our recent scam trends. These are real cases here within Talbot County. Obviously, for purposes of putting them out on the internet, I've wiped everybody's info out of these cases and kind of had to broad stroke them versus getting into the nitty gritty of the details. But I just wanted to go over some of the things we're actually seeing here on a repeat basis. One of the biggest ones right now is we're calling it the sheriff's office scam. The suspect's calling in pretending to be law enforcement and threatening to pay unless, or threatening to arrest you unless money is paid. It can be through a warrant or some sort of outstanding fine or violation. And the calls that the victims are actually receiving are showing that it's the sheriff's office number calling you, or the sheriff's office cross that logo up top. So that's going to be pretty hard for you to detect coming in, right? You're going to see sheriff's offices calling you, answer it, and then you're immediately being threatened by somebody pretending to be law enforcement that you have a warrant or you're going to be arrested, something like that. And they're using social media and publicly available information to help personalize the threats to you. They might know your address, your name, some other identifying information, but what they're doing is they're getting that information from your public Facebook, your public Twitter, your public Instagram, or whatever social media presence you have, your LinkedIn, articles online, and they're using that information against you. And they're doing it to get money from you. So it's like I said earlier in the slide, no public law enforcement agency is ever going to be soliciting money from you through the phone calls or emails. If you get that, your red flag needs to be going off right away. The most recent round of the scam involved the suspects sending the victims to Bitcoin ATMs throughout the county and sending the money through those ATMs. So they would have you as the victim respond to one of these locations where these Bitcoin ATMs are. You put in cash money, turns it into virtual currency, which then gets sent to the suspect. So that's probably the number one scam going around right now. We have a couple other hot scams I'm going to get to, but this is one of the most common ones we're seeing right now. The bail bondsman scam. This one I know several of you specifically mentioned, not by name, but you all mentioned this type of scam. So it can morph into kind of several different variants. I think this requires the most clever scammer to do, and it can also involve multiple scammers. So you'll receive a call from somebody. They could be portraying several different characters. I've seen it start with the bail bondsman. I've seen it start with the lawyer, start with the cop, or start with a family member or relative to the victim. I know several of you described that. You'll get a call saying, "Granddad, I'm in help, I'm in distress, I need money or bail money or attorney's fees," or there was ones where there was an accident, I need money, right now, right away. There's been something that's put that person in distress. So a lot of times you'll see this call come in, they say grandma, grandpa, mom, or dad right off the bat. They don't say your name. And then they're trying to almost fish for information from you as the victim, because what'll happen is the suspect will call and say, "Grandpa, I need money right now. I hit a pregnant lady in an accident. I need money for my attorney. Or if I don't have my attorney, they're going to lock me up." And then they're trying to get the victim to respond back with, "Johnny, is that you? Are you okay? How's this?" And then bam, they know, okay, my name's Johnny. I'm his grandson, right? So they're using your own reaction, your own shock to what's happening. They're using information you're providing to them. So they're fishing that information out from you. And then they keep adding to that information as they go along to make the scam going. And I've seen it where there have been multiple sort of characters in this play. They'll have a lawyer call, they'll have the prosecutor call, the law enforcement call, your grandson will keep calling. And they're calling in on different numbers to sort of keep this charade going. And then eventually it ends with you delivering money to them in one of the ways we've talked about earlier, whether it's the cards or the Bitcoin or check order. There's all sort of different endings to the scam.
So they'll actually have multiple people in on this reaching out to you.
Yeah,
Like,
I've seen this scam in all different types, from sort of one guy, I guess, changing your voice, to play different characters, to there's actually multiple suspects. There's obviously multiple suspects in the scam, but they'll be
wow.
there in that room. I'm assuming in a room, communicating with each other, right? About, hey, we got Joe on the line here. Joe, we know his grandson's name is Curtis now. Here's where he is at this point in the scam. I need you to call him back as the lawyer, whatever, right? There's multiple characters involved in sort of the skit they're portraying to fool you into sending money.
Wow.
Yep. One of the ways I've found people have caught on to this scam, a lot of people will catch on that ultimately fall victim and give money. They'll catch on that some of the details don't add up, but they'll attribute it to, well, I haven't seen my grandson in a while. Maybe this has changed, or he didn't exactly sound like him. He had an accent, but he needed the money urgently. So one of the things that people have also caught on to is the numbers won't match, and they'll also catch on to, if you're disconnected or you hang up, when you call back that number, they won't answer, and then they'll call you right back. And there's something about that in the spoofing number sometimes, where if you call the number back, they won't be able to answer, but they'll be able to see you called, and then they'll call you right back. So that's one of the common scams like I said, we've seen in our area several times. There's no set script. It seems to kind of change every time on who's calling first or what the urgent situation is. But that is one of the more common scams we see in our area.
So on the chat, Betty shared that she received a message that she had a package at the post office, but in order for it to be delivered, they had to send some money. And it wasn't much, but then they captured the info. And actually, I have gotten similar, like from FedEx and from, there was a delivery problem and they needed more information. So that's a really good one, Betty, to bring up and to not fall for. Because, I mean, we all use delivery services, right? Pretty much. So we are often expecting packages.
Yep.
And so it can be easy to fall trap to that.
I know, same lines. Glad you brought that up, Doug. I know personally, I didn't fall for any of them, but I've gotten several emails. I don't remember if it was FedEx or USPS about unexpected package deliveries, but I didn't happen to have any packages coming, so I obviously wrote them off as scams right away. All right.
Thanks, Betty.
Another one we have, to keep it PG, we've been calling it the website scam. We just had one of these actually come in last night late. The essence of this scam is you receive an email, or generally an email, advising that the sender of the email has caught you visiting pornographic websites, and they hacked into your computer, your device, and they were able to film you while you did these activities. And they're threatening to release this video to all your associates on Facebook or whatever social media, just out into public, if you don't send money right away. And we did get one of these came in last night. I met with the deputies and we went over it. They can have some of your information. They'll know something about you, where you live. The one we had in last night was personalized to who it was sent to, and it also had a general address in the county of where that person resided and who would get to see this alleged video of what was happening. The reality is, it's a bluff. They're just playing on the fact that some people view some internet websites, and that the reality is you just gotta not send money back to these people. It's a scam. You can just block it and ignore it and move on. They don't actually have a video. They're just trying to pressure you into believing you do, so that you will send that money to them. Another one, I know several people talked about this. We get these pop-ups. They'll just appear on your computer in a little screen, sort of like I have the image of here. It may not be as obvious as this one with the giant warnings. Some of them are a lot more subtle, where it's just text, and it might say Microsoft or Apple or whatever device you're on, and it'll offer you some kind of a script about information stolen, or you need to click here to do this, that, or the other. But it's essentially, when you click on that button, you're downloading the malicious software on your computer. It could be ransomware, where they are going to then essentially ransom you money. You have to pay them money to get your files unlocked. It could just be another virus where they're trying to track your keystrokes so they could get your banking information that you access at a later date and time, or they could get passwords to other things. There's a whole sort of ending to these viruses that pop up on your screen. But the big thing is, if you do get something like this, don't click on it. Uh, if you did happen to click on it, say you were running through or it popped up, you accidentally clicked on it before you could read what it said or something like that, just unplug your computer, power it off completely. If it's like a laptop type device, remove the battery so there's no option of it getting on the network. If you have like an internet cable plugged in, Ethernet cable, one of those colored cables that goes in the back, unplug that so that there's nothing else coming into your computer, no viruses or any software being downloaded, but also none of your data is going off your computer. Nothing's getting uploaded off your computer onto the internet. If your computer is completely powered off and you remove the powered supply, you'll know that that's safe at that time. So you kind of handle the immediate emergency. And then when you're able to, you can follow up taking it into a computer repair shop or repair store to get them to safely boot it up and remove any harmful viruses that are on there. That's what you need to do if that comes up. And then I think it was Claudia talked about the ransomware and the possible threat of spilling over to other devices. And that is a real threat as we go forward. It's called the Internet of Things. It's called the IoT. Again, that's the Internet of Things. That's where everything's kind of connected, right? Your thermostat on your wall is smart Bluetooth that's connected to your refrigerator. That's smart Bluetooth that's connected to your phone. That's connected to your alarm system. That's connected to everything else. So one virus you get into one could possibly be leaked over to other things, or at least they would be able to know that you have those other things in your house. So that is a wise thing to know. If you're infected on one device, make sure you're taking those security steps on the one device, but you're also looking at other devices that were linked to that.
So we had a question that popped up on the chat.
Yep.
Should we block suspicious emails as we go?
Yes, we were getting into that later. Yep, don't give people a free second swipe at you. If you bit on the hook for a little bit and then you spat the bait out, don't go back and bite the same lure twice, right? Don't give them a chance. If you see that scam number calling into you, right? They leave you a voicemail saying, urgent, your bank account, all your money's going to be gone. Go ahead and block that number, right? We don't want to give them a free second chance at us. When they call back and it's sent instantly to voicemail, they're going to know you have them blocked and they're going to move on to somebody who's less savvy, right? So you need to protect yourself. We're going to get into that with our tips and tricks for preventing, but yeah, that's exactly what you need to do. Block them.
I have a question. I've blocked, but my phone won't take any more blocked numbers.
Oh,
So,
wow. I have not
yeah.
come across that because I know I personally, whenever one comes in, I block that number and I haven't maxed my block list yet, but that is impressive. I can't say I've ever heard that one yet.
So I have to get another phone then, I guess.
I don't have advice for you on that one. Like I said, I've never heard of that being an
house phone
option.
that's blocked. I mean,
Oh,
that
okay.
and it's full and it tells me it's full. So I have to listen or I have to really look at the number now. Okay.
Teresa, I have the same problem, and you can go into the blocked numbers.
Yeah.
And then I just delete a bunch of them because most of them are only used once.
Okay.
Yeah, so what I've seen is so if they'll call you on one number and
Right.
no answer, right, they'll call you back the next day. Maybe it's a different number, maybe it's the
Yes.
same number, but they're only
Mhm.
going to try you for a short period. Because if you're not paying out, if you're not getting that money or that info they're seeking, there's a million other people, right? They're on to the next one. So if you can kind of avoid it for several days, you're probably good in the long run for that number. Is it possible they loop back around to you? Sure, but it's a lot less likely.
I think they changed the numbers.
Oh, there's constant number
Yeah.
changing. Yeah,
I
I've seen
think
it
it's
within
the
the
same
same
thing.
day. Within hours, they're on to a different number.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Another one we're seeing here is the Social Security number scam. You receive a telephone call where there's issues with your Social Security number. They claim that your Social Security number has been suspended and you need to make a payment to reinstate it. So that's kind of like that IRS scam. They're looking for personal info and they're looking for money. And the more they can get, the better, because they may not want your personal info, they may not need it, but they can turn right around and sell your info to try to make some money off that as well. Some of the other ones, like I said, there's an infinite number. I'm trying to go over the ones we're really seeing here right now. You get calls about the vehicle warranties. I know everybody always makes the joke about the Prince of Nigeria. You've inherited a ton of money, or the Publishers Clearinghouse scam, right? We all hear about those. You also see some of the other scams we're seeing are like Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, where you'll go on to an ad and they'll try to scam you to getting info or money from you that way. So you want to buy an old collectible salt shaker, right? Whatever it is, some item off Facebook Marketplace. They'll ask you to Venmo them the money or whatever. There never was a salt shaker for sale. They're just trying to get people who are interested in, I guess, items that might relate more to the elderly or the more vulnerable to send them that money. And that's why they're advertising those particular items. But then you never get anything in the mail. You never get anything. That Facebook account was fake, and then they scammed you. And then by the time the bank discovers it, you're out of the money and you're on your own. Similar to that Publishers Clearinghouse, you're that Mega Millions winner. You get that email, hey, you won, click here, and then you're either having to send some money. We'll see that, hey, you won $50,000 on this week's Mega Millions, but you have to send us $500 to be able to clear you the check and do all the fees for it. We'll see that one come through. We're going to get into some of our tips and tricks to prevent being scammed. I know Karen talked about this, and Robert as well, the required training. We do that here as well. Anything through your work or place of employment or anywhere you volunteer is great. These the lessons you get on how to avoid where the IT department will send you the tester emails to see if they can get you to click on the links or reply back. Those are all great options to do if you are working in the business world still. One of the big things, I know I talked about this with Doug, he might expand on this next week, is the websites. If we're going on to websites and we're trying to buy some clothes or we're trying to buy, an extra golf club or whatever it is, when we get to the payment screen where we're actually looking to enter our credit card, our personal information, our address in, we want to make sure we're seeing up in that URL line, that top line where the address is for the website, we want to make sure we see that HTTPS. Or we want to see bottom right, you can see that padlock design. That's going to tell us that website is most likely going to be secure and protecting our information, okay? If we're not seeing that, and that website's asking for your credit card info to buy something, or it's asking you to enter in your personal info, we don't want to be putting our information into those websites, okay? There we go. Another thing is using secure passwords. We don't want our passwords to be associated with your personal information in any way, whether it's your date of birth, you'll see social security number, the last four in there, your kids' names, your dog's names with years after them, your personal addresses. Anything where you're using your own personal information as a password is something that somebody else could easily guess that information in for you and get access to your account or your bank account. And we don't want to allow that. So some of the tips are, if you have different accounts, which obviously everybody has different accounts, we want to be using different passwords for each account. We don't want to have the password to all 40 of our accounts be the same password, so that if they can guess it into one, then they're into everything. Similarly, we want to make sure that our passwords are at least 12 characters or longer. Anything shorter than that is going to be easier for people to break into using some software or technology. And we also want to make sure, along that same vein, that we're using different letters, uppercase, lowercase, symbols, and numbers. We want to use them all in conjunction to make that password as difficult as possible for somebody to break. Because if we're only using lowercase letters, then it's a lot easier for them to break through that password with software. The more, I guess, digits, the more variables you can add per space of that password, per digit, the longer it would take them. And the longer it takes them, they're not making money, so they're moving on to the next person. We also want to make sure we're securing our passwords in a secure manner. We don't want to have a note folder on our phone with 50 passwords, or we don't want to have a book laying next to our computer at home that says passwords that has 800 passwords in it, right? All of our banking info, all of our social security number info. We want to take some steps to protect that info. We went over this one kind of. Do not answer calls from telephone numbers you do not recognize. If you answered by accident but do not recognize the call, or hang up. And I kind of went into this example as well. If you get an unexpected call from someone advising they're with your bank, do not provide any personal information if asked, and hang up. Call your local bank back on a telephone number you use with that bank, or visit the local branch in person. So say you bank here at Shore United in town, right? Say they give you a call saying, hey, we see a suspicious transaction on your account. Did you spend $500 at Walmart in Easton? You're going to go no. And they'll say, okay, well, can you verify who you are with the last four of your social? And you're going to say, no, I'm not going to provide that information over the phone, but thank you. I'll follow up, right? So you hang up with that person on the phone, and you can either call your local banker back with a number you know is your local banker you've used before, right? Or we can go in person to our local bank, make a visit with our banker, talk to him. Hey, I got this call saying there was this $500 transaction from Walmart. Can we go over that? Can we look at that? And they might tell you, yep, we do see that here on your account. Is that something you did? And then you can handle that there in person at the bank where you know you're secure. Or they might be like, no, we have no record of that charge on your account. And then you'll know right away that person that tried to call you was a scam. But we want to kind of separate that call coming in for us handling it on the backside. And we'll get over it here too. I talked with Doug about this. If you lose money to a scam, one of the biggest things you can do is save that information. If they called on a phone number, write that number down for me, date and time when they called you. If they sent an email, get that little the email address, write that down, date and time. The names, when there's these calls come in, we'll see often people will keep a little notepad, and it'll have sort of little jots of information down. But as much as you can recall about what happened, if you can write it down when you bring it in to us, that's going to help us catch them on the backside. Similarly, the FBI has a website called the Internet Crime Complaint Center, the IC3. We send people there a lot. What IC3 allows you to do is enter that same information I was just talking about, sort of a summary of the scam, the telephone number, the email address that was used. And the FBI is able to take all that information from all the victims, and they're able to compile that to see what the trends are right now to help us out on the police end. This one, we talked about it several times, but it's an important tip, and I know we got asked about it. If you receive a call from a person you identify as a scammer, block the number. So this example here in the center of the page is specifically for like a cell phone. If the number calls in, you can click on it, and you can click block the caller at the bottom, add them to your block callers list. We don't want to give them that second chance. If we caught them this time, there's not necessarily a guarantee that we catch on next time, right? But if we blocked them the first time, then there is no next time. This is one of the points I personally like. I don't feel it's done enough, but we're trying to get the word out about it. If you get that call in, it doesn't feel right. You get that email, you get whatever it is, a letter in the mail, you get a call, a text, whatever they use to you. If you're just not sure, if something feels off about it, but you can't tell, I would much sooner spend, 10, 15 minutes with you on the phone, looking at that email, checking out what it is, and being able to verify true or false, real or scam with you on the phone, then have you come in a week later, you're out $10,000, and now we're having to chase this guy, spending hours, on investigations. So we'd much sooner spend 10, 15 minutes with you on the phone, or, you come in and we check it out on your phone, or you bring in your email, than have hours spent tracking this down on the backside, right? If we can help you up front and you're not the victim, you haven't lost any money, that's obviously our goal. Any personal information hasn't been leaked, that's our ideal scenario to prevent, right? On the backside, your information's already out there, that money's already gone, and we're trying to get it back. So if we can help you on the front side, we would love to help you guys do that. Similarly, we want to, if you see a scam come around, if you get a text in or you get a call in, you're not going to be the only person in your neighborhood or your family that's getting that call, right? They're trying to do as many people as they can to get much return back on the money side or the info side, right? So say they call you pretending to be the scammer and you catch on to it, putting out a Facebook post, or, calling your family members, calling some people you might think are more vulnerable in your family, some friends. Hey, this email is going around from whatever the company is, be on the lookout for it. It's trying to scam you. Or, hey, I got this call today about this, keep an eye out for that. And I get that these kind of are happening on such a frequent level that it would be kind of all the time you're doing this, but looking out for your friends and families and neighbors while you can is going to help prevent this from happening in our area. And that's going to help us out a lot. And then again, do not send any money or give your personal information to anyone you do not know and trust. If they're calling from the bank, if they're calling from Amazon or whatever shopping app you're using, Walmart, Target, whoever it is, hang up, do not give them the information over the phone or over the email. You need to go back to somebody you know and trust, that personal representative you deal with at the bank, or that number you've dealt with that person on before that you knows their actual contact number. Another option you can do is routinely monitor your bank accounts and credit score. You can pay for fraud monitoring services. There's identity theft services, antivirus software for your electronic devices, things you can do to harden your personal devices and your personal accounts to prevent you from becoming a victim. Places to go to stay informed. We have the Sheriff's Office Facebook page. We are posting on there all the time. You can actually see down there in the bottom in the snippet. One of the last ones is a scam alert. They're posting out there all the time when we get in a sort of a new type of scam, a new batch of scams. We'll post out there trying to let the public know that this scam's going around of this type. You can see here's some examples of scam alerts we put out. We try to give out as much detail as we can about the type of scam that's going around, so you could be on the alert, whatever type of scam it is. Yep, one of those, that left side one is actually the Sheriff's Office scam that we talked about a lot. We post it out there on our Facebook site. We do press releases on our website here as well. You can see if you go to our Sheriff's Office website, there's that little left side column. And if you click over on administrative divisions over there, it'll take you to the press releases, and you can view it from the website as well. You don't have to be on Facebook. We post it on the website. And then I know the local papers or the local Facebook pages will pick up those press releases, and they'll distribute them out as well to try to reach a larger audience that may not be on the social networking side. So unfortunately, with like the paper stuff, it might be a couple of days later before it gets out on the printed media to get to some people that don't have these social media or the internet. All right, Doug, you want to hop in, see if we got any more questions or anything to go over?
No, we do have one question that came up, with like the doorbells and the cameras and the thermostats that are linked into the home internet. Can scammers use those to get into your internet?
That's kind of a good question. I know, so nothing is hack proof, right? Everything eventually will be able to be broken into. One that went around a lot, you saw it in the news, the like big news stories with people were hacking into like baby monitors, and they would like talk to the babies or whatever, right? I haven't seen any instances of where people used like hacking into your doorbell camera or hacking into your thermostat to get into your internet, but they are able to identify what your internet is. And if you make it easier for them, example is out on your mailbox, you have, your last name posted, right? The Smith's residence on your mailbox, right? Yeah. So that guy driving by, he sees your Wi-Fi profile, right? It pops up on his device, Smith's Wi-Fi, right? So what does he know about you? He knows where you live, what your Wi-Fi name is, and then he can work to try to get information that way, right? So we don't want to make it that easy for somebody to get our information.
Yeah, I think so. That leads to you should always make sure you have a password on your Wi-Fi, because if they can get into your Wi-Fi, if it's free access, then they can go through your network and get into your devices. And
we also want to make sure that our name isn't giving away information about us. We want to make sure our name's secure. Right. Yeah, I mean, you can name it whatever you want, but don't name it something that's giving away information about yourself.
Yeah, those are really good points.
Have you heard on a scam concerning Medicare?
Like we said, I mean, there's infinite scams. Do I personally recall any off the top of my head right now? Not that I can remember, but I imagine it'd be a lot like the IRS scam or the other scams we had. I know we had some for medical products where they were somehow scamming people's medical information or stealing it and then sending them products, and they were like taking percentages of that from the company. But not specifically Medicare that I recall off the top of my head, but I'm sure it's out there.
I was getting 2 or 3 calls a day at one point from
Yeah.
something, I mean, for weeks.
Yep. You'll get a lot of the there is the Medicaid calls. Do you have Medicaid? We can get you this, we can get you that. And then there's also a lot of the refinance your homes. There's a lot of those you get. Do you own a mortgage? What's your credit score? We can refinance.
I got 3 calls this week to want to buy my house.
Yeah. There's, like
know
I said,
why.
there's almost infinite scams. We could sit here for months going over each and every single type.
Thank you.
No problem.
These are good points. And one of the things we'll talk about more next week is developing a resiliency to these kinds of things, because there's no way you're going to defend yourself against every single scam because there's just so many types, but you can develop a demeanor and a concern and a curiosity about things that can help you be more resilient. Another item came up was calls around Christmas from the police department. Is this a scam?
Probably. I mean, I don't want to shut down some poor police department trying to fund something, but I know we do the Shop with a Cop or Shop with a Hero program here in Talbot, but I don't think there's any soliciting for money for that. I think it's all donated by donors. Any kind of call you get from law enforcement soliciting money is just going to be a scam most of the time. If you believe it's a scam or you're not sure, like I said, call in. Hey, I just got this call. Are you guys doing a fund for, food for the hungry or shelter? Or, is this something you guys are actually doing? I mean, if they are, they're obviously going to provide you that information for how to donate or where to go. But if they're not, you avoided losing any money. Just take that extra second, hang up with them or hold off on replying to that email and follow up with the source from some method you actually know, whether it's a different phone number, a different email address, somebody you've dealt with at that bank. You can obviously Google any police department and find their main hotline and call in.
When I've gotten those police calls, I just tell them I don't do business on the phone. Put it in the mail.
Great answer. Just keep in mind, though, our mail, you can get a scam letter just as easy as you get a scam email or scam call. Just because we get it in the mail doesn't mean we can trust it.
I understand, but they never put it in the mail.
Yeah. Oftentimes, I know in my neighborhood, the fire department actually comes by with the fire truck. They knock on your door if they were looking for donations, which obviously, you're good with that. But
There was something going around a while back where they warned you that if you got a robocall, and you can usually tell now, and when I realize it's robo, I just hang up, but that they're what they're wanting you to do is answer a first question. And apparently that gives away, as soon as you say hello and they'll say, "Is this Lynn?" They go, then they've just gathered information. Is that a pretty common issue? And should we just not answer robocalls?
if you can identify it before answering it, no, you shouldn't answer, right? That goes back into our unknown caller or blocked caller or a phone number you don't recognize. There's no need to answer it. If they really need you, they'll leave a voicemail or they'll get a hold of you another way. But if you do answer, I have heard. So one of the things is you might have maybe called into your bank and they ask you for the voice authentication or ID. So you say your name into the phone, right? So they can gather information from you, yeah, on those robocalls. When they ask what's your name and you say your name back to that program, it could save that audio clip and they could try to use that to gain access to your other accounts. That's why we want to do as much as we can to avoid any contact. If we can have them blocked before they ever call, we're ahead. If we cannot answer it, we're ahead. That's where we want to be, ahead of it.
I have used on my cell phone, if the number is not in my contact list, do not let it ring. And that has eliminated all of those phone calls ringing with me even a temptation to answer it. I never hear from them.
Yep, I have a belief, I don't have any hard stats on this, but if you answer one call and they hear you on the line, if they can hear you're maybe elderly or slower talking or anything like that, if they get if they can get that glimpse that you are a good target, they're going to put you on that try again later list or try with the next scam list, right? If you don't answer, then they're like, okay, that person knows not to answer calls, not wasting my time on that number, on to the next victim, right? If you can make yourself that harder target, you're only helping yourself.
It's a good thing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, what I do, I don't do that, Brenda. I've thought about doing that, but in the Chesapeake Forum, I get calls a lot of times from those of you in the community, and I don't necessarily have you in my phone book yet. But if I do think it's a potential spam or something, I send it to voicemail. And if they want to speak to me, they'll leave a message. I guess
Perfect.
the younger generation doesn't leave messages anymore, but then they don't get to talk to me. But maybe they didn't want to anyway. So.
And I've certainly found that I get voicemails if that person is a worker coming or something that I don't have their number. They do leave a message. So I
Oh,
don't feel like I've lost anything by having that and freezing my accounts. Those two things I think have been so helpful.
okay.
Yep, I know a lot of banks offer services where on your app on your phone in the bank app you can cut on and off cards or freeze things just with the push of a button almost.
So a recent thing that happened to me is somebody cloned my Facebook page,
Yep.
and I use my nickname Doug instead of my full name Douglas, but they used Douglas. And they sent out to all my friends a friend request, and several of them accepted it. And then they sent them a request for money.
Yep.
Of course, none of my friends would ever loan me money, so nobody responded. But I mean, that was what they actually went through and did. Now, somebody finally figured out and sent me a note that, hey, somebody, and so I had to report it. And it took about 2 weeks before Facebook finally took the other website down. I reported it multiple times, and I asked those that sent me a note telling me it was fraudulent to report it also.
Yep.
So Facebook will respond to that. It does take them a little bit to do that.
Yeah, we see a lot of that. We tell people, make a post on your real account. Hey, if you get a message from this fake account pretending to be me, ignore it. It's not me, The more proactive you can be, the better. But they're using your account, your own images they're taking from your account and your friends list. That's who they're targeting, is your friends list. So if you can message out to all your friends and put a post out saying, hey, this isn't me, don't respond, ignore it, block it, report it, that's the faster. If you have one guy report it, it's like you said, it might take 2 weeks. If all 300 of your friends report it, they're probably going to notice that pretty quick, right?
Yep.
So the sooner you can get it taken down, the sooner you can protect your friends and family.
Good. Going back to keeping your passwords. So I, like some others, it's an old address book.
Yeah.
And so it's under, Shore Bank would be under S and things like that. Good practice, bad practice, an alternate. I mean, maybe hide the book or.
Yeah, I mean, hide the book is one thing. I mean, ideally you have it in a safe, right? A safe isn't going to prevent somebody getting in, right? It's just going to buy you time. It's going to take them hours to get in the safe versus if you leave it out next to your computer. I do see the password book a lot, but obviously if it's all in one place, it can all be gone at the same time. And then not just one of your accounts is gone, but all your accounts are gone. So if you got to write it down, if that's something you have to do, keep it locked up in a safe or a lockbox or a fireproof box, something like that.
Impractical. Other questions or comments that people have?
In your house to get it.
Is it safe to let Google save your passwords?
So yeah, those are, I forget what it is, password book or whatever it is. I could never tell you something's 100% safe, because obviously I have nothing to do with Google or how their software works, but it's a choice you can use. I mean, I can't say that I don't use it, logging into as many databases. You just click on it and then the website pops up, your password's already inserted, you just click login, right? use at your own risk. I can't tell you to use it or not, but theoretically somebody could come along, right, break into your house, your computer, and then bam, all your sites are already logged into for them. They didn't have to do anything to earn it. The safest way is to not use those, obviously, but I understand a lot of people do use them just for convenience. If you have to log into your computer, to log into your email, to log into your bank account, that just takes time, right? And we're all creatures of habit and convenience. We just want to get in there right away.
A lot of them have two-factor security on them now, so I presume that's a good thing to do.
Yeah, Doug's going to go into that. I don't want to steal his thunder, right? Doug, is that in your next week one, the two-factor and
Yeah,
how to set that up?
we're going to talk about that, and this is good. I'm interested in what things, because I'm going to do some research for next week, and I will definitely, Lynn, look into that. I also do use so I'm an Apple device, and so I use the password, the keeper on the Apple, and I've used that for years. It's great because it makes up very complex passwords, but I hadn't thought about what you just said, where somebody got my device and got into it, then they've got everything, and then it goes into the thing that Claudia brought up. So not only do they get my laptop, they get my phone too. That's an interesting point. But I'll do some research on that, and we'll talk about that in more depth next time.
But yeah, two-factor, if it's an option on whatever service it is, it's great security step to take if you can take it.
Other questions or specific topics that people want? I've got a number of things that we're going to address next week, but if
No,
there are
Doug,
specific-
next week, I'm signed up for in person.
right.
Am I assuming we'll be in person next week unless you tell me otherwise?
Yes, so we apologize, Tom.
We had some tech support issues
Yeah.
yesterday, and
So-
the technician is at our classroom right now trying to figure out what's going on with our equipment. So hopefully we'll have that resolved today.
Right. So we will be in person next week, and
I
Is
hope
it
to
the
be there
same time?
too.
following week.
Is it the same time, 10:30?
Yep, be 10:30 next Wednesday.
And then if people have I guess specific or sensitive questions to, actual accounts you have, obviously don't throw those out here on the internet today, but we can try to help you in person next week to help you with any of those specific account questions or anything.
Right.
Thank you.
That's the other thing that's key is Detective Faggart will be there, and so you'll be able to talk to him personally, and he'll stay after for a while. So if you've got some items, because we do want to be sensitive to, your information. And then, as I had mentioned, for the third class, where we'll help people if they're trying to set things up on their devices, that we will not record, so that we make sure that if somebody reveals a password or something like that in the room, that none of that information is available. So that'll be kind of come to the room, and we'll help you with your device.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. And thank you very much, Detective Faggart. We really appreciate you taking the time and this material. And look forward to seeing everybody next week.
Thanks
no
so
problem.
much.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you. I think we're getting a really good
Thank you.
debrief here of what we
Yeah,
need to
thank
know.
you.
Yeah, thank you so
Bye.
much.
Bye.
Look
Bye.
forward to seeing you all next week, hopefully in
Great.
person.
Right.